Let me tell you a little anecdote. A few days ago, a lady said to me in Los Angeles, my husband died a year ago, and he shared with me a great lesson. On his deathbed, he said to me, come close. I want to tell you something. Listen very carefully. I can only say this once. I don't have much strength left. She said, I'm listening, darling. What is it? He said, remember this always. Each morning, the moment you take your head off the pillow, you have all you need.
If we look at the mind as an iceberg, and the tip of the iceberg is what's above the surface, that's the conscious mind, that's the mind of choice, that's the action mind. What's below the surface, and that's most of the iceberg, right? That's the subconscious mind, like a submarine. You don't know it's there, but it's there, unless it surfaces.
Well, most of us say we want X. I want a new car. I want a fancy house. I want inner peace. I want a loving relationship. And then we start to go out into our world and we say, I will earn the right. And you start working away at life. And you're using your mind a lot and you're working at everything, and things get in the way. Life seems to throw curves at you.
You can think of everyone in this world that you know as dragging a whole bunch of suitcases behind them. The emotion code is a way to cut loose all those suitcases, all those steamer trunks, all that baggage that you've been carrying around all your life. The end result of that is that you become light and you become able to manifest into the world what you're supposed to be able to manifest. Imagine living in a world where everyone is actually manifesting from their heart into the world their perfect creation that is inside each of them. That's where we're going.
I am absolutely convinced that it is our trapped emotions and traumas and anxieties and unprocessed life experiences that we hold in our nervous system are the source of everything that ails us.
One of the most profound things in my life has been able to share ancient wisdom that I came across just as a young guy traveling around the world and fascinated by communities that pretty much live off the grid, and they're long-lived, they're healthy, they're happy, And it always bothered me. How can they be that way without hospitals and doctors and miracle supplements and pills and capsules? They don't have any of that.
What I've come to understand is at the core of every symptom, every stress, every dis-ease pattern that we experience, whether it be physical, whether it be emotional, are emotions, memories that are buried in our subconscious mind. And when these are triggered, our body reacts. It's called a maladaptive stress reaction. And what it means is that we're not able to adapt in the present moment, here and now. And what happens is our body reacts as if something from the past is going on right now.
Now, when we react to conditions in our life, there is an emotional component that begins to create chemistry in our bodies because the body is interpreting an emergency situation. Now, all organisms in nature are designed for short-term stress. Gazelle gets chased by a lion, 15 minutes later it goes back to grazing and everything returns back to balance. Human beings are a little different. We can turn on the stress response just by thought alone. We can think about some past bitter memory that's tattooed in the recesses of our gray matter, and like magic it comes to life, and in that moment it's real.
Whenever you see something, because the brain works in pictures, there's a response to that image of the sensory impact. If you hear a sound that sounds dangerous, your body, your brain will create an emotional molecule to get you to respond to that.
And so the mind does its work very, very quickly. And based on the data that it is receiving, it forms a truth about the present memory or experience. Based on that truth, it comes up with a thought that tells the self about that memory or experience. And based on that thought, we generate what we believe is the appropriate emotion to match that thought.
And as a result, our heart rate increases, our immune system suppresses, we become more anxious because we're not in our fullest potential in the moment. The core of every symptom, stress, and disease are emotions and memories, traumatic perceptions that are buried in our subconscious mind.
Like you handle every other witness. You grab him by the balls. You take control of the situation. Otherwise, you and I are not working together ever again. Do you understand that? I don't need you. Whoa! No, listen. No, listen to me. You go back there and you take...
First of all, to understand how the emotion code works, you have to understand that the human body is really nothing but energy. If you look at your hand, for example, that hand looks pretty solid. But if you were to magnify that hand 1,000,000 times, you'd be looking face to face with a single individual atom. And if you could look into that atom, you'd see there's really nothing in there but empty space and infinitesimally tiny energies zipping around at the speed of light. And that's really what we are. We're beings of pure energy. We are composed of all these countless energies, tiny energies, that are all flying in this close formation, giving us this experience that we're having in this world.
Emotion means energy movement. And it's our thoughts that create our emotions. It's our emotions that create our behaviors.
Well, when we feel an emotion strongly enough, what we're really feeling is a vibrational energy. Every emotion has its own specific vibrational frequency. Anger is a different emotional energy, a different frequency, a different vibration than frustration, and that's different than sadness, and they're all different. But when you're feeling an intense emotion, your whole being can take on this vibration, and it's during those times that sometimes the energy of that emotion that you're feeling is too powerful, and that energy can become trapped and stuck in the body. And a trapped emotion, we have found, is literally a ball of energy from about the size of a baseball to about the size of a cantaloupe. And these will lodge anywhere in the body and disrupt the normal energy field of the body. And because that's all the body really is an energy field, when you distort that energy field, you eventually start to have problems, because what you're really doing is you're distorting the tissues of the body themselves. And if you distort tissue and you irritate tissue long enough, that tissue starts to have problems, and it can go through those changes that we call cancer.
So to me, one of the most fascinating things of the ancient Swinwet, the lady scholastic healers of ancient Egypt, was they knew there was only one disease, not 20, 26, 30, 36,000 diseases like we're taught today amongst the masses. They knew there was one, and it was chaos at the level of the Neters. 600 BC, Democritus and others in the Greco-Roman period called that word the atomos. Today we know it as atoms. The only disease that exists in the human experience is chaos at the atomic level, which leads to chaos at the molecular level, which leads to chaos at the cellular level. And when enough cells are in chaos, you feel it as a sign or a signal of a chaos or an offense in the body. That's what the word symptom means, a sign or a signal of a chaos.
It's been proven that every cell in your body works on a vibration, an energy field. The physical body is grown within an energy field that resonates at a particular vibration. Through stress, that vibration becomes weaker, causing the physical element to be under pressure.
So the removal of stress creates health. I think it's the AMA says 80% of all health issues are stress related.
If we look at living in an emergency mode all the time, the emotions that are derived from those chemicals of stress are the emotions of anger, of aggression, of hatred, of prejudice, of fear, of anxiety, of insecurity, of hopelessness, of powerlessness, of depression. Those long-term effects of those chemicals are the emotions that most people call normal states of consciousness.
In the ancient world, they knew that negative emotions store all through the anatomy of the body, and it affects the emotional physiology or function of the anatomy.
Your body is your unconscious mind. It doesn't know the difference between an experience in your life that creates an emotional response and an emotion that we fabricate by thought alone. To the body, it's believing it's in the same environmental conditions. So it's a scientific fact that the chemicals of stress dysregulate and downregulate our genes that create disease. It's a fact. So if we can turn on a stress response just by thought alone, and those chemicals can make us sick, then by very definition, our thoughts can make us sick.
They believed anciently that the emotions were actually generated by the organs in our bodies. And I believe that that's absolutely true. When we're feeling an emotion of anger, for example, that emotion is actually being created. That frequency is generated by the liver in most cases. Think about people who drink. Oftentimes they overstimulate the liver and they become angry. On the other hand, the lungs produce the emotion of grief, among others. And so people who tend to have a lot of grief in their lives tend to suffer from lung issues.
I want you to understand why different cultures knew. If you have a pain in your thumb, that's very significant and a very significant emotion. If you have a pain in your elbow, your shoulder, if you feel a little pain in your chest, in your hips, in your stomach, in your intestines, a lot of people don't understand anymore the connection of the entire body to the brain and the brain seeing pictures that create emotions which create behaviors.
Because emotions are a record of the past. And so if the emotion is stored in the body, then the body literally is living in the past. And the body, is the unconscious mind, believes it's in the same environmental conditions 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. The body's literally living in the past.
Emotions tend to build up, and we tend to push them away as they build up because we've been taught to resist things that don't feel good instead of feel the things that don't feel good. And we look for answers, and the problem is that the answers aren't out in our world, they're inside us, because the feelings are from inside us.
When I look at the mathematics I've written and the concepts that these mathematics bring, it shows that within every proton, every subatomic particle in the nuclei of atoms is all the energy, all the information of all other atoms in the universe. So when we go inwards is when we actually connect with that oneness, with that connectivity of all things.
We've got a physical body, and we've got an energetic body. And that energetic body is known as the chakra system, and there's 7 of them. And so our beliefs, the energy of our beliefs, is stored in the light body of our chakras. And depending upon which chakra is involved, influences how we then perceive ourselves in the world around us.
And we call these trapped emotions patterns, but we do experience them that way. If it's an experience that we have not completed and come back to self, we do find a way to keep repeating those experiences. And so we re-traumatize ourselves. We pick partners that create re-traumatizing experiences that we had as a child with one of our primary caretakers or our parents or school teachers when we were very impressionable. We keep creating the same emotional dynamics, the same creative frustrations, the same physiological disabilities, and because our energy is not flowing.
Well, you know, during the last 10 years that I was in practice, I was working with some of the sickest people on the planet, people who had been told that there was no cure for them, people who were suffering from things like cancer or chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, lupus, and other diseases. What I found was that the subconscious mind absolutely holds the key to understanding the true underlying reasons why those people were sick.
Now, our subconscious mind from conception to puberty, primarily conception to 7 years of age, is programmed with emotions, memories.
From the beginning of your birth, you start encoding the world and good experiences and bad experiences, and the unconscious mind holds this, and stores it, and makes it real to your conscious mind later on in life. We're successfully producing whatever it is we produce. If you're depressed, you're doing something correctly inside your mind. If you have pain inside your mind, there's a resource to help create and manifest it in the belief system.
Have you ever noticed that when you have a headache, if you focus on the headache, it gets worse and it amplifies and your emotions get involved and now you're in total chaos and you think you need some kind of medical drug to kill the pain? That doesn't cure anything. That's a neurotoxin and it just blocks the electric signal. Get to the cause. What is the negative source, the toxic emotion and or the toxicity of something that you're eating and drinking that's also affecting your emotions in a negative way? Detox it, clear it. And there's no doubt that one of the leading causes of physical pain is the storing of negative emotional molecules. So it's a signal to you from the different points of anatomy that, hey, the emotions you have been feeling and going on with is storing here and it's causing a chaos or a discomfort. You need to switch it up go to the positive form of that emotion, and it's so interesting how pain in the human body can diminish.
What I have found is that 90% of all the pain that we experience is due to trapped emotions, to emotional baggage. I think that this is really the elephant in the living room in Western medicine that we are missing completely. When people are in pain in Western medicine, we give them drugs to suppress that pain. When people have diseases, we give them medications to suppress the symptoms of those diseases, when in reality, those symptoms are the body crying out, telling us there's something wrong here. The imbalances that we suffer from are what ultimately manifest as disease. And the single biggest imbalance that we suffer from is emotional baggage, our trapped emotions, those energies that stay with us after these traumatic emotional events that we suffer from.
The stresses and upsettedness that seems to come into our life, they change. And as they change, our world changes. It's absolutely astounding that changing how you relate to something changes everything in your world.
So many of us become defined by past experiences, and we live by those emotions, but that's not who we are. Those emotions are just a record of the past, and when we begin to become aware of that, then we begin to retire the old self, neurologically, biologically, genetically, and we begin to create a whole new self.
And so what happens in today's world, because of what we have set up that we call civilized society, so many of the things that are pushed upon the masses create negative emotional molecules. Once they're formed, they're real, and you can't even get them out of the body unless you know how to. Because they're like magnesium and calcium, if you don't know how to get them out of the body, they store in anatomical sites and actually affect physiology, the function of the anatomy. And that leads to diagnostics of disease or discomfort. It's important we understand how to remove negative emotional molecules and restore them with positive emotional molecules. That's the very foundation of health, life, and longevity.
At first, when life starts, you have an egg cell and a sperm cell coming together. They become one cell. They become 2 cells, they become 4 cells, they become 8 cells, until you have like 50 trillion cells. And during the course of a lifetime, you get burns, you get cuts, you break something, you get a bacteria, you get a virus, anything. And the body restores itself, the body heals itself. So when you consider that that is a normal process, I don't think that there's a mistake in the body that actually causes disease. So if that's the case, there must be a very specific use for diseases or symptoms to occur. And I think it's the body reacting to surrounding elements, to stresses you perceive, in a way for the body to cope with the stressor and actually deal with it.
I look at every symptom as a conversation. That there's nothing that happens in the body. There is actually nothing that happens in our life by coincidence. We are not made wrong. We're not broken. We're not missing anything. That every so-called problem of the body is a portal. It's a doorway to access this invisible, unseen energy that is guiding our cells to communicate from our brain to our body, from our body to the outside world, so that we can adapt in any given moment. And so when we can begin to look at symptoms, when we can begin to look at our behaviors, whether it be addiction, whether it be, obsessive, compulsive, ritualistic ways of being, as a conversation, then we can join the dialogue. Then when we join the dialogue, that becomes the gift, because once you observe the symptom, once you observe the stress as a conversation, you can participate in it, you can guide it, you can influence it, you can learn from it, you can grow from it.
Everyone knows someone that is in pain, and everyone knows someone that is dealing with depression or anxiety or self-sabotage in some way. Many of us know someone who's dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder, and it is these emotional energies, these invisible energies, that are the underlying cause of all of these things in my experience.
So I'm really also of the belief that though trapped emotions are the source of everything that causes us difficulty in life and keeps us from being in our divine nature. I'm also a great believer that it's not that difficult to begin to move this energy once we are aware that that's what's trying to happen.
There are people drinking their water. There are people eating healthy. There are people exercising, running, doing yoga, and their body is still speaking to them with heart disease, cancer, allergies. But at the core of it all are emotions and memories buried in your subconscious mind. And when you combine the two, where you have a strategy to get on in to these core emotions, these memories and programs, and shifting them, just shift them to create a transformation in perception.
Emotions are the end product of past experiences. And if you can change your actions, you're going to have a new experience. And when you're in the midst of a new experience, all of your five senses are plugging you into reality. And it's gathering all of the sensory data. The brain is picking up all this important information from what you're seeing and smelling and tasting and feeling and hearing. And as all that data rushes back to your brain, and the moment those neurons string into place, another part of the brain makes a chemical, and that chemical is called a feeling or an emotion. So we can remember experiences better because we can remember how they feel.
If we allow ourselves into those feelings instead of resisting them, things begin to change. But therein lies the rub, how to get in. And the easiest way in that I've found through 40 or 50 years of searching is through feeling.
We need to follow the first principle of success that says, think of what you want, not what you don't want. Another thing, if you keep on doing what you're doing, you're going to keep on getting what you're getting.
And if we allow those chemicals, those emotions, to last for hours or days, that's called a mood. So you say to the person, what's wrong with you? And they say, I'm in a mood. And you say, why are you in a mood? Well, this event happened to me 5 days ago, and I'm memorizing my emotional reaction. Now, if we keep the same emotional reaction, the same refractory period, lasting for weeks or months, that's called a temperament. So you would say, why does that person have such an angry temperament? You say, I don't know. Why are you so angry? The person says, well, I had this experience 9 months ago, and I'm living by the same emotional reaction. Now, if we keep those same refractory periods running for years on end, that's called a personality trait. So then it makes sense then, in order to change our personality or change some aspect of ourself, we have to look at the emotions that we've memorized that literally are stored in the body.
We understand that the power of the mind is proven scientifically that it can heal itself over and over again. And oftentimes you hear a doctor or researcher saying, well, with a lemon in their mouth, well, you know, this placebo effect is ruining our good research. The placebo effect is proving that the mind can heal itself in spite of the sugar pill or the fake operation. The nocebo effect is exactly the opposite. Here, the nocebo effect is they're getting the right drug, the right surgery, and yet they don't heal. And yet both of these people are doing exactly the same thing, but looking in different directions. They're using the universal pattern of belief or creation. That means while they're taking the sugar pill, in their mind, they're imagining, seeing, feeling as if they're going to get healed. And they're looking for ways that this sugar pill is actually working. They don't know if it's a sugar pill, but it's their mind healing themselves. The nocebo effect, they're taking the real drug, they're getting the real surgery, and yet it's not working. And you know why? They're imagining and seeing and thinking and remembering all the times it didn't work and manifesting and seeing themselves dying, ill, and the drug doesn't work.
We're designed to heal quickly because we are spiritual beings, and it's just like clearing the windshield or you know, clearing the window that we're looking out of that will allow us to heal. And I'm really an advocate for not making it too complicated.
And here's the interesting thing. Research has shown where they did two groups. One group got fake radiation. That means not even real radiation. And 1/3 of them lost their hair. It is the power of our mind, the power of belief, and the power of our inner creations to manifest and produce healing or no healing. You're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. You're successfully producing based on what you already hold in the background of your mind that you may or may not even know that is there.
Well, what I've discovered is that the universe is really extremely willing to play with you if you will play with it. And most people are braced against life, and they are expecting the worst. They've experienced the worst. It's a vicious cycle. So I try to kind of help people, like the Pied Piper, take them into a different frequency and begin to show them that they can co-create with the universe and actually attract some very dynamic, very positive, and surprising good experiences very quickly. I've done this all my life because I was introduced to doing it this way with my mom. It was always a solution. The universe will show you. You just don't know yet. Expect good things.
So what I found is that by releasing these trapped emotional energies that were invisible, I could change how people felt, and I could change people's pain level instantaneously in many cases. And I finally realized that we could get people well who had been told that there was no cure. Now, when a medical doctor tells you that there's no cure, what he really means is that you can't be cured with drugs or with surgery.
True transformation comes when we break free from the chains of those emotional addictions, when we begin to go into the operating system where those programs exist, and we begin to make transformational changes. And the side effect of true transformation is called joy. Now, that elevated emotion is a liberation of energy out of the body, and the body is freed from the past and it moves into the present moment. And we begin to experience the second type of emotion. We begin to feel joy, goodwill, gratitude.
Because if you let yourself feel and be present, everything becomes possible. In the world as we see it, this beautiful illusion we find ourselves in, it's very flexible, very malleable, and very fun.
I believe without question the single biggest underlying common denominator for all of us with all the illnesses that we suffer from, whether they're physical ailments such as chronic fatigue or fibromyalgia or asthma or infertility, or the aches and pains that we suffer from, or the depression, the anxiety, the panic attacks, the phobias, the self-sabotage that so many of us deal with, is actually what I call emotional baggage. It's actually the trapped emotional energies that are still with us from those emotional events that we have passed through in our lives, from our divorce, from our abuse as a child, from our difficult work. Those energies stay with us and disrupt our lives and cause our diseases and much of our self-sabotage. It's really true that as we start to release emotions, it is like peeling off the layers of an onion. Some of those may have occurred when they were a child. Some of those may have happened during their divorce or during their working years or during college or high school. And eventually we are able to get to a point where we no longer have those trapped emotions, where the body is clear of those. And at that point, it's like stepping out of the old skin that we've been carrying all these years, and we step out of that and we become this person that we were really intended to be in this world. And that's what this is about, and that's why this is so powerful.
You know, the subconscious mind acts as a lens of perception. So how we see ourselves and how we see the world around us is based upon the programs, memories, and emotions that are buried in our subconscious mind. But even more, the subconscious mind acts as a broadcasting signal, like an antenna. And it broadcasts a frequency of energy that then attracts that same frequency and energy. So now, let's use for an example, you know, here I am at You know, I'm in my mother's womb. I'm developing in my mother's womb. And my dad is out of a job, and my mom is anxious because it's the third child that's coming around. The heartbeat and the emotions that my mom, my dad are feeling are directly influencing, like a computer being programmed and downloading information. I'm directly downloading this information, and this becomes a stored file, and that file then later in life doesn't just, you know, sit there quiet. It's energy.
If a baby is born feeling unloved, unwanted, and unaccepted, then that creates a belief system. They will then grow up and go through life and attract to themselves whatever supports that belief system.
And energy is in motion. So it stays in motion. And when it gets triggered, that energy gets triggered, it broadcasts a signal that then attracts people and circumstances that give me the same experience, different face, different name, but the same kind of experience in my life today. This is patterns. The key is to begin to understand that there are emotional patterns that we carry in our life that, as a result of these emotional patterns that are in our subconscious mind, influence our relationship with money, influence our relationships with each other, influence every aspect of who we are.
You see, consciously, we don't remember much. We don't really know much consciously. We live in our conscious mind, but we don't remember what we had for breakfast yesterday. And we forget our wallet, we forget our laptop, we forget our keys, all kinds of things. The subconscious mind, however, is a holographic archiving computer that is remembering every moment of your existence, every split second of your existence. And that computer, that subconscious mind, knows exactly what's wrong with you if you're sick. It knows exactly what needs to be done to get you well. It knows exactly what trapped emotions you have, who was involved, when they occurred, everything in precise and perfect detail, you see.
At the core of every symptom, there is an emotional pattern that, when triggered, causes our body to react in that emotional way. So you might find that in your relationship that you're in, that you easily get frustrated, that you easily go to anxiety or jealousy. Now that frustration or anxiety and jealousy not only is going on in your outside world, but the body speaks the mind. And there are these chemicals, they're called neuropeptides, molecules of emotion that the pituitary gland secretes. And then when it does, those same emotions that are going on outside of you are going on inside of you. And your blood is pumping these chemicals of frustration, of jealousy, of anxiety. And our cells, it's so interesting, have these receptor sites, these protein receptors that bind these molecules of emotion. The amazing thing about these receptors is that these are the same receptors that bind heroin. And when you take heroin once, what are you called? An addict. Guess what? We are addicted to our emotions.
Meditation is great to quiet the mind, and it's great as long as you're just sitting there meditating. And if you do it for years and years and years, your mind will start to get used to the quiet space and you can carry it into your world. The trouble is most people aren't patient enough to meditate the number of hours it takes to get there.
I think meditating will recalibrate your nervous system so you're not as reactive, and that you may not stress your emotions as much. But you don't want to numb them out. You want to use them as allies, as messengers.
Meditation can get you to a state of healing in many, many modalities. We often use meditation to what we call our brow chakra, our intuition. If the brow chakra is not cleared of negative contaminations, it's very hard to get to that state of meditation.
We are human beings, and our emotions are there to give us information. And so we need to listen to them, respect them, honor them, and then release them.
And so we find ourselves not in a happy, relaxed state. We have anxieties, we have panic attacks, we have all kinds of things going on. We're just under the gun, under pressure. We got to get this done, we got to get that done. It's time to like slow down.
So when you look at the general healing paradigms, and especially in the case of cancer, which I did a lot of research, is you can always find 3 different things that are running on for people to spontaneously cure themselves from cancer. One is to find a new mission in life. Many people who contracted cancer lost their meaning in life. Either they lost their child, they lost their job, they lost their passion. And as soon as they found out, like, this is my new path in life, this is the way I want to go, then a change in their health occurred.
So whatever you want in your body, you simply give thanks for it. You don't ask for it, because if you continually ask for something, you are saying you don't have it. If you give thanks for it, you're acknowledging that you do have it.
You know, one of the biggest questions people have, at least when they come to engage with me, is what is my purpose in life? You know, I can't get at it. I can't feel it. And the way you do that is simply fill in the blank. If I weren't afraid, I would.
So where you place your attention is where you place your energy. And as we begin to decide really clearly on creating a future, or creating a new destiny, or designing some project that becomes our passion, that the more we put our attention on it, the more we give it energy. And the more we give it energy, the more we bring it to life.
The reason why it works, like I mentioned before, is that you step into the mind. And the mind will record an event, consciously or unconsciously without you knowing it, and it's stored in the background. Now here you are, you're walking through life, and all of a sudden you feel panic or you feel fearful. The reason why you feel that is because the mind encoded this experience. It's like a little imprint of how to do and how to act, and it's in the background. So now you're just driving through life, and all of a sudden you're triggered. The mind will send the message through the entire body, through the lymphatic system, the blood system, the breath system, the meridian system, and it tells the body how to respond. So when you're tapping, what you're actually doing is you're messing up the record, the trance. It's like you take a CD or an LP and you scratch it, and the more you scratch it, the less it's likely to play. So when we're tapping, we're aiming inwardly of what it is and how you know you have a problem. And when you tap, you're messing up the message from reaching the body, which creates harmony in the mind and the body, bringing you back to the present moment called now. But we know really logically all of our problems were created and generated from our past, which isn't real.
I run into people who are depressed, and they are so depressed, and the medical drugs they're on, all you got to do is read the side effects that say they can lead to suicides, murders, all kinds. Come on. Do you realize the ancients knew what to do for depression? Number 1, get out into the sun. The sun is healing. Number 2, the colors of the plant foods of orange and yellow. If you will eat an orange and pineapple together, you watch what happens to depression. Within 72 hours, the emotional molecules being generated in the neurochemistry of the brain is molecules of happiness and joy. I've had so many people suffering depression, anxieties, all kinds of fear, different things, and that's all they do. It blows them away. For some of them, it has literally saved their lives.
There was a scientific experiment done a little ways back where they were looking to see if emotions filter our perception. So they took a group of people that were clinically depressed, and they showed them equal slides of a wedding scene and a funeral scene. And the next day they brought them back into the lab and they said to them, which were there more slides of? Were there more slides of a wedding scene or a funeral scene? And all of the clinically depressed people said, well, there were way more slides of the funeral scene. And it made sense because we begin to view reality equal to the emotional states that we're in. And so if the emotions are coloring our perception in our daily life, then what part of reality are we missing out on? Because there's got to be more to reality than we're perceiving. So as we begin to remove the masks or remove the lenses that block, our true greatness or our true self, we begin to see what's already always existed, but we didn't have the mind to perceive it because we're viewing our reality through the past. And all of a sudden, it's like we're lifted to see a whole new landscape. And that's when we begin to choose differently and we begin to see possibility and we become inspired by that possibility because now we're looking at some future instead of looking through the lens of the past.
This hand posture means I love you in American Sign Language. And in 1998, my cousin, who is deaf, at the end of a day of working with clients, went like this to me. And I felt something. I didn't know what I was feeling. I just knew it felt good. And I said to Rob, Rob, what is this? And he said, I love you. It means I love you. I said, that is so cool. I said, come over here. And he came over and I did something that's called muscle testing. And muscle testing is a way to read reflexes in the body. Every body is built on reflexes. Your eyes blink, your iris constricts, your tongue salivates, your knee jerks. We have reflexes that control every aspect of our body. And so one of the things that I'm trained in is applied kinesiology and using muscle testing as a means to literally speak to the subconscious parts of ourselves. And so I found a reflex on Rob's body that made the arm go weak, and I simply went like this. I love you. And the weak reflex instantly got strong.
Now, we go through a very short, simple process to identify a trapped emotion and to bring it to awareness. Okay? Once that emotion is brought to the surface, we're actually able to release that trapped emotional energy by simply swiping either fingertips or a magnet over the governing meridian, which happens to run from the lip, over the head, back all the way down to the tailbone. Now, when we pass our fingers or a magnet over that governing meridian, what we're doing is we're actually putting energy into that meridian. Now, a meridian is a river of energy that flows just under the skin. The governing meridian is connected up with all the meridians, and that pure intention of yours passes into that meridian and releases. It goes into all the other meridians, and it releases that energy. The best analogy that I can give you for this is if you take a credit card, okay? If I take this credit card and I rub a magnet on the back of that, on that magnetic strip, that information that's encoded there is gone, and we can't use it anymore. And that's how the emotion code works. It's the same thing as just erasing that emotional energy that is stored in our body. Most people find that they can find an emotion and release it within a minute or so once they learn how to do this. It's that simple.
It's interesting because today's physicists have confirmed the teachings of the ancient scholars that everything is made of light. Everything is light. What happens to detox emotions is to make sure that when you start to feel a negative emotion, number one, slow down. Take a breath. Get outside. Maybe even go for a walk. Most people don't realize that if you're emotionally upset, you just don't know who you are. Shut up and go for a walk. You go out and you start walking when you're emotionally upset and negative and everything else is going on, within 3 minutes, that walking, that motion of being outside in the open air, in the sunlight, reestablishes and clears it.
What's so important to recognize is life is not about what happens to you. Life is all about how you choose to respond.
The biggest cloud to our perception is fear. And we're so accustomed to it, and we're so inside the matrix of it, we consider it a normal part of our reality and one that we just, at best, can manage. maybe play, dodgeball with or hide and seek. But what I do is I actually help people move through that wall of fear by simply taking a breath, asking them to put their hand on their heart and focus their attention to where they are in present time, looking at what's right in front of them. And then I say, what are you afraid of? And then you do it again. If I weren't afraid, I would. And let your heart speak. And they might answer, I'm afraid of failure. I'm afraid of being alone. And then I'll say, what are you looking at right now? And then I'll say, and what else are you afraid of? And what else? And keep bringing them back to the moment. And within 2 minutes, 3 minutes, they've emptied that fear. They have looked at it, vocalized it, but coming back to the moment, they see that I anchor them back in present time. Because it's not fear that actually keeps us trapped. It's hiding fear that keeps us trapped.
The Wonder Method's purpose is to teach you to feel again. And as you allow yourself into those feelings, the mind becomes quiet. The feelings unwind as you let yourself into them. And the resistances you had to those feelings change. And the act of their changing is what makes the mind quiet. Let's say you're having trouble paying your bills, and you go into the feelings around paying those bills, and all of a sudden there's money to pay the bills. And it comes from places you couldn't imagine. Or maybe they just find an error in your bill. It's just really amazing how life and the illusion changes because of that. And it gets more fun.
As you begin to step towards your path and purpose and reconnect and realign with that kind of spiritual integrity, the universe is stepping toward you. So there's this convergence going on until eventually you're being met by opportunities.
The key here is that as you open to it, you're removing the blocks that are in your way to abundance, or really to anything you truly desire. And then you arrive where you've been looking for.
In Western medicine, they have what they call the 7 levels of neuroendocrine glands. In a lot of other cultures, they know it as the 7 chakras, the exact same levels. Those chakras, those 7 areas of the neuroendocrine systems of the body, running from the pineal in the brain, right on down through the body to the reproductive organs of the ovaries and testicles and everything in between. They had assigned anciently the colors of the rainbow moving up. And it's so interesting because it's the colors of the foods that target specifically those levels of the chakras of the neuroendocrine system, and the emotions of positiveness or the emotions of negativeness in those levels.
You know, throughout our journey, and this might be a tough pill to swallow, we're going to experience pain, we're going to experience fear, we're going to experience stress again and again and again. And it's so important to recognize that the pain and the fear and the stress of our bodies and of our lives is a conversation. And when we can begin to embrace the pain, embrace the fear, embrace the stress with an attitude of gratitude rather than a full-on attitude, that's where real growth occurs. That's where, when we shift the lemons into lemonades, taking responsibility for us being the common denominator of our life, that's where we discover meaning.
The 7 families of emotions tied to the 7 colors of the rainbow, which tie to the 7 notes of the octave, which tie to the 7 days of the week. The number 7 anciently was the most profound number in understanding the impact of thought and emotions on the 7 body systems. What brings a smile to your face? Is it country? Is it hard rock? Is it opera? Is it rap? It does not matter. It doesn't matter. Don't let anyone judge the kind of music that hits you. If you can get into and find not only the octave, but the diatomic structure of that particular music, and then find the foods whose colors match that note frequency. When you're listening to that kind of music, if you'll snack on those colors, geez, it will blow you away at the level of lift, of happiness and joy, and the harmonic of the chakras or the 7 endocrine glands, and just the flow of the neurons of the brain and the cells of the body. It will give you goosebumps.
And then if you look at chemical imbalance, then there's enough research to show that eating fruits and vegetables, not overeating, next to a stressful reaction, digestion consumes a lot of our energy. So if you don't overeat and you eat the foods that really can break down very readily in your body, then you have more energy for growth and repair.
Fast, faster, and fastest. To fast doesn't mean to starve to death. It means to strengthen, to hold fast, to hold firm. And the ancients knew that. There's not one animal on the face of this earth, if it's sick or injured in any way, will eat. Even cats and dogs, they'll eat grass to make themselves puke and throw up to get rid of everything. And then they will never eat again until they know their body has hit a point of strengthening, of holding firm. The fastest way to heal the emotions, according to the ancient wisdom, was to be able to stop eating, because foods create moods. But what if you were to fast just on water? Because water has all 7 spectral colors of the rainbow. That's why you can see a rainbow in the sky when it rains and light shines through it. A faster, not as fastest, but a faster way is to drink the bloods or the juices of colored foods. Another way is fast, which is to eat the colors of those foods. And so when you understand the 7 body systems and the physiological functions and its relationship to colors, especially in foods, you'll understand which foods to eat to clear negative emotions and to reinforce positive emotions. It's like the color red. Red was a color that the ancients knew represented power and love and warmth. If you look at red and look away, you're probably going to see green. That color green, eating those foods, gets rid of the negative emotions of the color red, which is anger. Oh, you're seeing red. Yeah. If you're angry, if you're irritated, if your buttons are pushed too easy, you need to eat more green food, the negative emotions.
The way that we can speak with the subconscious mind, this invisible part of ourself, this unseen part of ourself, is through what I call muscle reflex testing. Muscle, the strength of a muscle, the ability of a muscle to lock out or give way, gives us a read when our subconscious mind is in a reactive state and when it's not, when we're in an active state, when the conscious and subconscious mind are bridged or when they're gapped.
One of the most profound proofs of this work is that it works with animals as well as people. Sometimes people might say this is due to the placebo effect, but there's no placebo effect working with animals. And the emotion code works beautifully with animals, and we have found that 90% of all their problems are also due to trapped emotions. Sometimes we find that when we're working with animals, we need to work with the owner as well, because sometimes the animal will take on the trapped emotions that the owner has, and there's a dynamic going on between the two of them that sometimes has to be addressed. One of the most amazing stories about this was a horse that I was asked to work on one day. And we work on a horse through a surrogate person typically, where we'll have one person that we will test, and we will ask questions directly of the animal and get the answers on the surrogate person's outstretched arm. And as I'm asking questions of this horse, I find that the horse has an imbalance. It had a problem with lameness. It wasn't walking correctly. And they'd had a couple of different veterinarians look at it. They couldn't figure out what was wrong, so they called me. And what I found was it had an imbalance in its hindquarters that was due to a trapped emotion. And the trapped emotion was sadness. And so I'm asking questions. And there's a crowd gathered around listening. Is this trapped emotion about another horse? No. Is it about a human? No. Is it about a dog? No. Cat? No. I'm running out of options. A bird flies overhead, and I asked, is it about a bird? And the answer that came back was yes, it was about a bird. And everyone started laughing. And I started laughing too, because it seemed so comical. But the horse's owner was there, and she said, you know what? I think I know what this is about. She said that a week before, there was a little baby bird in a nest of baby birds immediately in front of this horse's stall. And one of the baby birds fell out of the nest and fell down onto the ground and struggled for its life and died. This whole sad, tragic affair was played out immediately in front of this horse, who was powerless to help and was overwhelmed by the emotion of sadness. That's what got stuck in the horse, that emotion of sadness. We released it, they took the horse out, and it was walking perfectly from that moment.
And so you can learn how to muscle test yourself. You can muscle test another person. You can use someone as a surrogate to work on an animal or a child or a person who's not able to do muscle testing themselves. The simple way, and I just want to show you how to muscle test so that you can really discover the emotions that are buried in your subconscious mind that haven't been fully processed in your heart, is you just keep your arm in. And you imagine that you're holding a bucket and you like fill that bucket up with like 5 pounds of gold. And I put my hand on top and I push down. I tell this arm to hold strong and I'm looking for it to lock out. I'm looking for it to lock out. Everything gets compared to that and it locks out. Now, so many things can trigger your subconscious mind emotionally to react. And so, you know, whether it be thinking about something, whether it be, you know, a color, a sound, something can trigger a type of conditioned response. When I even say the word love, just the word love, I get the elbow and I say hold strong, it locks out. When I say the word fear, there's an energy to that. I can actually even feel it. You can feel it when I just say it. Fear, hold strong, hold strong. And it might look like, oh, you're just doing that yourself. No, I'm not. Hold strong. And I'm going to go back to love. Love, love, love. Hold strong, it locks out. I can do this on someone else, I can do it on myself, but that enables me never to have to guess. There's no reason to guess. In a laser-like way, we can know when you're in an emotional state of reaction and how to shift that, infinite love and gratitude, so that you can process whatever emotion's going on in the moment.
When you eat dark chocolate, the cacao or cocoa bean, the real one, not the fake stuff that's in so many products, but real dark chocolate, or hops in unfiltered organic beer, they are all of the same genus. They're all of the same family. Every one of those things is to create happiness and joy within the human experience. I've even helped people addicted to different drugs and cigarette smoking, commercial cigarettes, which are toxic. And you can use something as simple as good black licorice and macadamia nuts. You have them together, you carry them with you whenever you feel like having a cigarette or you have some other addiction, you eat that first. You would not believe the hundreds and hundreds of people that have overcome their chemical and emotional addictions to things by just understanding the simplicity of the nature of foods around us.
Many things that I believe affects people is unworthiness, doubt, fear, shame, and guilt, because these emotions have affected the human race for centuries. You see, if all things are composed of energy, that means fear, shame, and guilt are simply forms of energy. And if we can change them, we do. So I simply use dowsing. I'll say, why don't you check to see what is the effect of unworthiness, doubt, fear, shame, and guilt upon you? And I will then transform all that, usually into enlightenment, and have them check it again, and it's not there anymore. What I'm saying is we can take one energy of any type and transform it into another energy.
You attract who you are. You see what you already hold. And if you change what you hold, everything else changes. Your body changes, your relationship changes, your finances changes, everything changes because you're changing what you hold within and you're rewriting the story from the inside out.
Now, if you want to know what dowsing is, it's simply the movement of a physical object that, in my opinion, tells you what you already intuitively know, you just don't believe you know it. Had an old friend I learned a lot from, and he said it like this: dowsing is simply mother's intuition with a readout device. Well, I really don't know how dowsing works. Neither do I understand how electricity works, but that doesn't prevent me from turning a light on. So just because we don't understand something doesn't necessarily mean that we can't use it.
You know, a lady who is a chocoholic, I mean, her children would get candy for Christmas or for Easter, and the kids would have to hide it. And she'd wake up in a dead sleep, flashlight in hand, trying to look for the chocolate. She came to a live seminar. Within 15 minutes, we addressed the driving force. And basically, the driving force was that her grandfather gave her chocolate. It created a love feeling. She went on a trip all alone, and they found Belgian chocolate, Swiss chocolate, and it made her feel so good. And so what we look for our addiction to try to make us feel better, because we have no other way to feel better. And the mind does an amazing thing. It takes two things and put them together and make it one. Chocolate doesn't have love. It's not in the ingredients, but people feel love because we're emotionally conditioned. And so what we do is we go back and we re-imprint, change the addictive behavior, which is really emotional associations, and put it back where it needs to be. It's just food.
The liver produces what is called today anions. Most people know it as bile. The one food that has anions, and it's the only food on the face of the earth they've ever been able to study that produces it, is lemons. And so we find that these people are lacking in typically a lot of emotional joy and happiness and the positive emotions, which weakens actually the function of the liver. And the liver is tied directly to the skin. And so if you'll get your body out into the sunshine and let the yellow light of the sun shine all on your body, they know it produces emotional molecules that target the liver. Well, they call it vitamin D, but that's only one of over 1,000 nutritional components of biophotons of sunlight. They've only named one, and they know there's thousands. So here's the deal. You drink 1 cup of fresh squeezed lemon juice every day for 90 days, and because the liver goes into mitosis or cellular division and replaces itself every 90 days, if you're being toxic emotionally and even in your diet, the new liver is weaker in function and can eventually fail. If all of a sudden you're getting into the sunlight, you're drinking lemon juice, which has the anions of bile, so the liver doesn't have to produce it, it's not stressed. Within 90 days, we've had people with failed livers have 100% functional liver within 90 days.
You know, I had another woman in New York, a good friend of mine had turned me on to her because she had scalded her arm with coffee and it melted away her skin. And she went to Cornell hospitals to have the best doctors work on her, and she was suffering. She had to go through these debridement types of treatments where they would have to scrape away the skin on her body. And I was doing a long distance lifeline session with her, because energy, I don't need to be connected with somebody physically to do the lifeline. It's all energy, it's all consciousness. I did one session. After one session, the main medical doctor, the burn specialist that was working with her, said, I don't know what happened since the last time I saw you, but you were scheduled for 9 other debridements. You don't need any more. The skin naturally heals in 28 days. It knows how to. However, you know, when there's a pattern that's triggered, it's inhibited and limited in its fullest potential. Infinite love and gratitude. And what's wild about this, it almost seems stupid because it's so simple. It's like, give me a break. Give me a freaking break that could actually do something. It actually does. It works if you use it. It doesn't work if you don't use it. And the cool thing about it is I've never seen anyone hurt from using too much infinite love and gratitude. You cannot OD on this. Simply hold your hands like this, infinite love and gratitude, profound shifts.
It's just like women who start to go into their menstrual monthly cycle based on 28 days, which again is the lunar calendar. It affects the waters of the earth, even our bodies, especially women. That's why it was called Luna, the goddess of the heavens, and it affects especially the female body. But when you eat chocolate, dark chocolate, good organic dark chocolate, starting 3 days prior to the menstrual period, it diminishes pain and does away with it. It does away with the mental and emotional chaos that so many of them feel when they go into that period, that time. And so it targets, and these are the things we've got to get back to. What foods and drinks can we have to target any stress or emotions that can be negative in the human system? I love this ancient wisdom because it works.
I worked on a 33-year-old woman once who had never been in a long-term relationship. And she was an attractive woman, and I asked her, why? What happened to you that makes you feel this way? She said 8 years before, she was very deeply involved with a man that she was very much in love with, and he dumped her and broke her heart. Well, as you might imagine, that created a wall of trapped emotional negative energies around her heart, a heart wall. We cleared those emotions, and when that very last emotion was released, I felt the energy coming out of her heart. It was as if a stone had been rolled away. And I was suddenly, instantly bathed in the most beautiful, amazing energy coming out of her core. And I told her, I said, now that heart of yours is unlocked. And I said, that pure essence of who you really are is now radiating out from you, and it's filling the immensity of space. I said, you're much more likely now to be able to achieve your dream and your goal of falling in love and finding your soulmate within this next year. Now, this is not unusual. When the heart wall is taken down and those trapped emotions are released, the phone sometimes starts to ring. For women who have been hoping it would ring, it suddenly does. That energy goes out from your body, and I believe that it does fill the immensity of space, and other people tune into that, and then they're attracted to that.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you, yeah. So, you work here?
Yeah. Level 11.
This is a little bit bold, but, do you reckon we can hang out sometime? Do a coffee or juice or something?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay, so I get your phone number? Or?
Yeah, why not? 415-503-5933. I'm Lauren, by the way.
Hi, Lauren, I'm Ty.
Nice to meet you. This is me.
Well, thanks, Lauren. It was nice to meet you, huh?
Nice to meet you, too.
Okay.
Now, I want you to think about something. She's never been able to have a long-term relationship. Why? Because she had a heart wall. And when she would see an attractive guy, her heart would send a little butterfly of love towards that guy. But that little butterfly of love, that little love energy from her heart would have to pass through those layers of anger and resentment and depression and frustration and sorrow and sadness. And by the time it got out on the other side of that energy, it wasn't a little butterfly anymore. It was probably more like a gargoyle. And the guy on the other end would sense that and go the other direction, see? That's how this is working.
The experiences that we've had in observing people going within and beginning to unmemorize an old emotion and then recondition the body to a new mind or to a new emotion, the body begins to get back online. It begins to heal itself. And we've seen people with MS and lupus and cancer, and we've seen their bodies literally change, and the conditions return back to normal. So 5% of who we are is our conscious mind. 95% are those subconscious programs that we've memorized.
I am so thrilled to be 586 years old. Actually, what am I, 39? Something like that. Anyway, I am pain-free. I've never been to a doctor. I don't take medicines, never have. All I do is embrace the physics of nature. And I think about being happy and joyful.
When I move through the agenda in a way that has nothing to do with all that other stuff, and only to do with the true agenda of my soul, all that other stuff comes in anyway, without effort. All the stuff I thought I needed to strive for, yearn for, seek for, and go after, comes to me without any effort at all.
What you find is you stop striving and you start living, you start being rather than working hard at it. And when that occurs, the house you want just appears. The money you need seems to work out. It's not logical. Well, the trouble is, you see, it's not logical. There is no one way that works for everybody. If there was, we'd all be doing it already.
And I will say this, if you have something inside your mind that's hurtful and painful, how long should you hold it? And I say as long as you'd like a little child to hold it.
Emotions is the energy that moves you. That energy in motion is the subtle energy and the life force that allows you to be who you are.
No matter where you are in life, it will help you deal with life better. You'll live longer, be happier, your wrinkles won't be as deep, and you'll be a whole lot happier regardless. You'll look younger if you know how to get rid of your stress and emotions. You'll be thinner, you'll make more money. Everything will change when you change your inner world and change what you don't want and turn in what you do want. It works with everybody.
And we move from the selfish states that are driven by the hormones of stress to the selfless states where we really want to contribute or we really want to make a difference. And so making an effort to really transform ourselves, I think, is the best way to begin to transform the world.
No matter where you are, no matter what you're going through right now, no matter what you've already gone through, this is your starting point. And I encourage you to begin to look at yourself in an entirely new way.
What do you want out of your life? If you want freedom, this is a way. I'm sure it's not the only way, but it's a darn good one.
But do something to make someone else or something feel better. That in turn will make you feel better. And I have a saying that goes something like this, that no act of kindness, regardless of how small, is ever wasted.
Without getting too mystical, I think there's an intelligence within us that gives us life. It keeps our heart beating, it digests our food, it organizes trillions of functions per second in all the cells of our body. It makes new cells, trillions of cells every second as well. And that intelligence, that giver of life, we are an extension of it. That there's a power within us that when we contact it or we begin to remove those emotions and remove those habits that block the flow of this intelligence, when it begins to move through us, when it begins to move in us, and we begin to see its effect all around us, that level of energy that begins to move through us is who we really are.
What I've discovered is that 98% of the world's people are spending 98% of their time on things that don't matter. That is, the average person has no idea what they're doing here, who they are, the real fundamental and sacred purpose of their whole life. They imagine that life is about get the guy, get the girl, get the car, get the job, get the house, get the kids, get the office in the corner, get the bigger house, get the bigger car, get the more kids, get the grandkids, get the gray hair, get the sickness, and get the hell out. And that's not what life is about. Life has nothing to do with that, but most people live their lives as if that was exactly the script they're supposed to follow. What I've understood is that we are sacred spiritual beings here for a much larger reason, serving a much larger purpose, a divine purpose, that divinity itself might know itself experientially in, as, and through us. Knowing that has changed my entire life.
But the key here is that as you open to it, you're removing the blocks that are in your way to abundance, or really to anything you truly desire. And then you arrive where you've been looking for. You are now in abundance. You have the house, you have the car, you have the comfortable life. Of course, your life will change along that path, and you may change what you want, and that too is okay, because that's what makes it fun, the option to change.
You tried changing the other people. You try to change your husband, your wife, your mother. It doesn't work. But when you change you, it affects them because of your attitude and your beliefs and your behaviors.
We've got to get back to the understanding of the power of the human body to heal itself. If you know how to support it with foods and air and water and sunshine and walking and loving relationships and finding something that you're passionate about and happy, those are the principles of health. That's where this comes from. Only your body can heal itself. Only your body heals itself, and most people have forgotten that. Doctors can set bones, but they can't heal them. Only your body heals itself. Self-care is the future. Why? Because it was the brilliant wisdom of the past. That's what we have to get back to and understand.
And I think that at the center of our being, we're going to discover the amazing, amazing beauty that the universe offers, our connection to it, and the amazing potential that each one of us is.
You know, one of the things that I've experienced over the last several years is that whether I'm speaking to a CEO of a company or a prison inmate or a teacher or a janitor, I think that everybody secretly believes in their greatness, that they really believe that they can do a better job in life. And the new science of neuroplasticity and epigenetics gives people permission to begin to create the life that they desire. And that science really has become the contemporary language of mysticism. Science is the language to explain possibility. And I think one of the greatest things that I've learned over the years is that you don't have to be a priest or a nun or an intellect to begin to apply these principles.
But gradually, you find yourself in a place where things are kind of fun all the time. And you get all these opportunities and possibilities that are just absolutely staggering, showing themselves to you. It's just a great way to live.
Many rooms deep inside my heart. No more walls keeping us apart anymore. Turn the page and shine the lights. Souls rise and fly like satellites. Don't hide behind the world, the truth is we made the lightning, the sun and the sorrow. Now is the moment, there's no tomorrow. Lost and then we're found, our hearts on higher ground.
Let me tell you a little anecdote. A few days ago, a lady said to me in Los Angeles, my husband died a year ago, and he shared with me a great lesson. On his deathbed, he said to me, come close. I want to tell you something. Listen very carefully. I can only say this once. I don't have much strength left. She said, I'm listening, darling. What is it? He said, remember this always. Each morning, the moment you take your head off the pillow, you have all you need.
It's you who saves me. It's you who made me whole.
That allows me to live the kind of life that I've chosen to live. I only wish I had learned these things when I was much younger. So old, so soon, so smart, so late.
With every step we cross the universe. Don't hide behind the world, the truth is we